If you're a Christian that wants to finally pay off your debt in 2026, I'm going to be honest with you. There's a lot of new ways of doing debt payoff that's out there that just isn't true. And I would know this because we've worked with nearly 1,000 people through our Good Steward program, helping them eliminate their debt while honoring God with their finances. And we've seen what works, what doesn't, and most importantly, what's working right now in 2026 to pay off debt fast without sacrificing your joy or your family's needs. And so in this video, I'm going to show you exactly what's working right now, so you have everything you need to pay off your debt in 2026, updated to the current day, so you know that this will work for you right now. And so I want to talk about why most debt advice kind of keeps you stuck. And I'm not bashing any of these pieces of advice. I just find that a lot of it's just incomplete, maybe misleading, and or just really obviously doesn't help people accomplish the goal of paying off their debt, and I think most importantly, staying out of debt moving forward. And so I think most financial advice on YouTube is still given 2024 strategies, if you will, right? Like the interest rates, economic conditions, consumer behavior has all shifted. And so Christians are following outdated advice and confused on why it's not working, right? Imagine trying to follow a workout plan that has been proven to be outdated and or to not work and being confused on why you're not making progress on your fitness goals, right? And so I'm going to give you what's working right now with nearly 1,000 clients. It's a complete system, right? There's a lot of things to it. It's not just going to be, oh, pay off the highest interest debt or get snowball or cut up all your credit cards, right? Like it's going to be a lot deeper than that. It's going to be something that's actually robust, but intentionally robust, that allows you to get best results here. And so I think that the two broken approaches that everyone is still teaching is, number one, that all debt is evil. Like that's extreme, right? And so everyone's screaming debt is the enemy, like live like a monk, cut up your credit cards, right? Or avoid it at all costs like the plague. And, Christians feel extra guilty because of misinterpreted Bible verses around debt, right? Like I'm not out here preaching to go rack up debt or keep your bad debt outstanding. That's not what I'm saying, right? But I think the truth is that God doesn't hate debt. He just hates irresponsibility and poor stewardship. There's a lot of times in the Bible where God is warning against debt, but he's specifically warning against irresponsible borrowing. And then even when it does come to responsible borrowing as well, like there's these verses in the Bible still go towards that. Don't get me wrong, but it's talking about if you have to go after these debts, make sure you're doing it with extreme caution, extreme diligence, right? And extreme intentionality and a level of responsibility. And so I think really simply put, I think a lot of believers, and maybe the topic for just a specific YouTube episode in the future, right, around like what the Bible actually says about debt. And again, I am not co-signing on debt whatsoever. I'm not saying go rack up debt, don't pay off your debt. I'm not saying the Bible condones debt. That's not what I'm saying, right? And what I'm saying is that there's just a lot of misinterpretations around debt, just like any topic, inside of the Bible, that keeps Christians not just stuck, but feeling guilty, right? I think wrongly guilty for a lot of the things that's going on with their finances, specifically their debt. And so, we've got results to prove that what we teach really does work. I always say we're not perfect, but we do have a lot of data to show that if our clients play their part, they get incredible results. And so we've helped clients decrease debt by $4 million while also helping them collectively save $3 million, and also investments increasing by $3 million. And that's all of the people that we've worked with over the years, right? All combined to accomplish these numbers. And so an example, we've got a client named Danielle. After a year in our program, she was able to pay off $15K in credit card debt with zero interest, based off of some of the approaches that we teach that we'll kind of dive into here today. And so approach number two that I feel is keeping a lot of people stuck, right, is the just make more money delusion, right? And so people think that more money is the solution, or that a promotion or a side hustle is going to help them at drastic levels. I'm not saying it can't help. I'm not saying it won't solve some maybe immediate problems or some overdue problems, but it's not the real solution, is what I'm trying to say to you. Like if you hop off this, YouTube video and you're just like, what, the real solution for me to pay off all my debt is to make more money. It's wrong. I'm not saying it can't help with the overall solution. It's just not the real solution. And so the reality is that more money just highlights poor money habits, right? You make more, you spend more, same problems, bigger numbers. And so real solution is become a better steward of your current situation, right? I think this is everyone's biggest bottleneck in finance. Most people's biggest bottleneck in finances in totality is just like they're looking at this strategy, this one, that like that something external from what's already in front of them. Where like the real solution to the majority of our financial stresses and anxieties and goals is just to steward current situation better. Right? Then you learn better money habits. And when more money does come in, it can be used better than it would have been in the past without good money habits. Simply put, if you can't handle $5,000 $5,000 a month. What makes you think you can handle $10,000 a month, right? And so that's what I mean by just steward your current situation to the best of your ability. It'll help you with debt, but it'll help you with your finances in totality as well. And so we've got proof with this. Where like we've had clients making $70,000 a year have more in savings and less stress than clients making $300K a year, right? Not that I'm not bashing making more money. It's just not the real solution. It can help a tiny bit, but there's a lot more work that actually needs to be done in addition to that to actually make the best of that. And so the difference is never the amount, it's how you manage it is my point. And so I think the foundation, right, to move on from that is just to understand, right, the difference between good debt and bad debt, right? 99% of people, I believe, stay trapped because they don't understand this distinction, right? Bad debt is buying things that you don't need with money that you don't have at a high interest rate with no plan on how to pay it off. Examples would be 30% interest credit cards that you go on shopping sprees with, vacations you can't afford, and just paying the minimum payments for forever, right? And then good debt is leveraging other people's money at low cost or no cost to increase your value, your wealth, and your opportunities. Give you an example here, right? Getting a master's degree, $90K in loan cost, right? Maybe $150K total after you pay back all the interest, but it makes you $30K more per year, right? That pays for itself in 5 years, right? Another example of good debt is taking out a mortgage on a rental property, let's say, and allowing that to be a cash flowing asset for you and your family. And then also being able to build your wealth by now just owning that asset that you could leverage the equity in strategic ways, if not, worst case scenario, by selling it. And so those are good forms of debt, right? I just want to be clear though, like, actually, let me use a mortgage example here before, I get a little bit clearer on some of the biblical principles. Because again, I'm not saying go rack up a whole bunch of debt, right? That's like, even when you do use this strategic debt, we must be very cautious and careful, and we'll cover that here in a second. But I want to give you an example, right? This mortgage example that I'll give you changes everything. So, you could go pay cash for a $500,000 home. Like, I don't know really who has $500,000 laying around. And, even if you could, I don't think you can make worse decisions with your finances, but I don't think it's the best decision with your finances. Let me just give you an example here, right? So paying cash for a $500,000 house, it'll probably save you $500K in mortgage interest over the next 30 years, meaning you pay the $500K for the house and then another $500K on top of that for interest over 30 years. It sounds expensive, right? But let me explain, like, expensive compared to what, right? But that same $500,000, if you put it in the stock market at a 10% return on investment over the next 30 years, which would be the same duration as the mortgage note, basically mortgages are 30 years, you could pay the $500,000 for the house cash, save yourself a 30-year mortgage and $500K interest, or you could take that same $500,000 and put it into the stock market over the same 30-year duration, and it'll make you about, depending on what you're invested in, right, 10% on average return on investment is what the stock market has done over the past 25 years. If you do that, at the end of the 30 years, you'll have $5 million. So even after paying off the $500K in mortgage interest, you'll still have $4.5 million left over. And that's what wealthy people understand. They understand what is the best use of their money, right? And so what is the most strategic, what is the best use of my money? And again, paying for a house in cash and saving yourself $500,000, you could do worse things with your money, but you could utilize that money in a different way that actually makes you $5 million instead of saving you $500,000. That's what wealthy people understand. And so the biblical perspective here is like the borrower is the slave to the lender. It says that in Proverbs. This refers to irresponsible debt. I don't think as much to strategic debt, and I'm not interpreting the Bible based off my own interpretations. It's not what I'm doing here, right? What I'm saying is I definitely need to do a different YouTube video on this where like the Bible talks about debt, right? And in times shows it being used, and maybe even, I don't want to be and I'm not trying to be inaccurate at all here, but even, described at times by Jesus, right? And so I really want to do a separate episode for you guys on this, right? And so it's not the fact that all debt is condoned. It's just bad debt is definitely condoned. Do not borrow and irresponsibly for selfish, greedy desires, right? And do not borrow in a way that you won't be able to pay back, right? But I think even when there is practical debt that is talked about in the Bible, there still is extreme caution given on taking that debt, right? And so I want to just understand, like, when you learn how to leverage good debt in a biblically sound way, it can really open up a lot of leverage, especially for business owners as well, right? The key is being responsible with the leverage, right? Avoiding bad debt at all costs, right? And when debt is necessary, right? Going at it with extreme wisdom, extreme responsibility. And I will talk about some of some ways to do that here shortly. But I think, kind of just moving into some like tactical mistakes that are sabotaging your payoff with your debt. I see this all the time. Number one is mixing new debt with old debt, right? Putting new charges on interest-bearing credit cards creates confusion, right? Like, oh, I'm trying to pay this credit card off. You're throwing $1,000 out of the month, but then putting 1,000 more debt on it. It like makes it really hard, obviously, to get out of that debt because it's hard to track what's old debt, what's new spending. And even if it is possible, which it is, to still pay the card off interest bearing wise while still utilizing, it's very confusing. And that confusion that you take on is just going to allow a lot of people most times to quit and give up. And that's just not a great strategy to utilize, right? And so the solution would be stop using interest-bearing cards, or maybe even open up a new one just for essentials only, right? And so, we want to start to separate old and new so you can attack the debt strategically, right? And so really sitting down and praying about this, seeking wise counsel and creating strategy on how to do that is better use of your time than you sitting here right now. I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to do that. I need the cards. I'm not making enough, right? Like I'm not trying to be insensitive to people's situations, but I love the quote that says people that fight for the limitations, they get to keep them. So we can utilize the time here to just continue to look for reasons why we can't make this work, or we can utilize some time, that same exact amount of time, to figure out some strategies to actually make this work. And I think knowing mistake number 2 here, which is operating on emotions instead of data, will really help you as well. And so I want you to Google debt repayment calculator after this one. Credit Karma has an amazing one, right? Put in your balance, put in your interest rate, and choose either your monthly payment you're willing to make on that credit card each month, or the payoff timeline that you want to utilize, or payoff timeline that you want to stick to. Like, I want to get this debt paid off in 12 months, right? And it will spit out the numbers to you. It'll show you objectively what that would take, and toggle with the numbers until you find a plan that you can commit to. What I mean by this is just having a concrete plan drops anxiety massively. You can't improve what you're not measuring. And I think a lot of us, I think I got 15, 16K in credit card debt. I think it's this amount, or this interest rate. I think that this is the minimum payment. I think I can pay this much. I think it'll take me this long to pay off. All of that is causing so much unnecessary emotion to be present and to fester and to seep its way into the strategies that you take to actually pay off the debt, and really holds us back. And I always say 95% of our stress and anxiety when it comes to money, whether debt or other topics with finances, is due to subjectivity, non-factual information, right? Which allows emotions to get into the driver's seat. We want to replace that with objectivity, black and white. And simple calculators like the one that Credit Karma has for your debt will really help you show what needs to be done to pay off debt in the fashion that is most conducive to the goals that you have. And then also the repercussions of that debt payoff plan, just to be aware, okay, it's going to cost me this much interest. It's going to require this amount of money each month to go towards it. And it's going to take me this long to pay that off. Having that will drastically improve your outcomes. By the way, if you want help implementing this debt payoff strategy and getting your finances right, click the first link in the description to book a call with one of my team members to see if the Good Steward program is the right fit for you. You've got nothing to lose with taking this call. And this is the exact system that has helped one of our clients, Darna, who went from 15K in debt before she started the program to, after 6 months in the program, to 25K in savings. Or Danielle, who paid off 15K in debt over 12 months without paying any interest. And so that's the first link in the description. Go click that, book a call. We're so excited to chat with you. And then section 4 here, as we move into the last couple of sections here for this YouTube episode, is that this is the system that makes it all work, right? It all starts with budgeting. So hear me out here, right? Paying off debt is a goal, and you need the proper tools and plan to be able to pay that debt off. No matter the financial goal, the number one tool that will help you accomplish all of your financial goals in the fastest, cheapest, most stress-free and trustworthy way as possible, right, is a budget, especially a quality one, the proper one. Most people think budgeting is restriction, but that's wrong. It should be empowerment. It shouldn't restrict your options. It should open them up. And the system that we teach really only takes 1 to 3 minutes a day to maintain to get best results, sometimes only 30 seconds. Where you open your budget, you open your bank account, you input what you've made or spent, and then you just go out and act on that information, right? Daily attention prevents emotional decisions that keep people in debt, right? You can't feel at peace with something you don't feel in control of, right? And if your money's controlling you, not the other way around, of course you're stressed out about it. And the last thing I'll say is I always do this analogy, if you will, I guess, visual, where imagine if you had a goal of digging a 6-foot hole and you're competing against someone who's using a shovel, aka the proper tool, right? The goal is a 6-foot hole. The tool to get there is the proper one, and the best one is a shovel, right? And then you're over here competing against them using your hands, right? Who do you think's going to accomplish that goal a heck of a lot faster, right? Probably the person using the shovel or the proper tool. You may still get there with your hands, but it's going to take you a heck of a lot longer when you're going to put you and your family through a whole bunch of unnecessary stress and anxiety and missed opportunities in the process, right? And so that, just replace shovel or tool with budget for your finances. The goal of digging a 6-foot hole, replace that with paying off debt or whatever financial goals you have. the budget is pivotal to get there in the most optimal fashion possible. The next thing is we want to build an emergency fund, whether that's before you pay off this debt or after. Really just the idea here is that to having an emergency fund, it's anywhere from 3 to 6 months of your monthly expenses stored away in an accessible account. No less than 3 because it's risky, no more than 6 because it's a waste of money. If you have any more money just sitting in a basic checking your savings above 6 months of expenses, we want to have that money working for us somewhere else. Reasons why a lot of people have debt, right? It's because an emergency popped up that they didn't have the cash on hand to be able to pay for, and they had to put it on a credit card, right? And all of a sudden, 4 years has passed and that hasn't been paid off. If anything, the interest that you've accrued on top of it has exceeded the initial expense in the first place. And so even if your example isn't that drastic, think about it. If you don't have money to cover a random expense that pops up, an emergency pops up, and it's gonna happen. That's just life, right? What's your resort? Probably just putting it on a credit card. And that's where a lot of debt starts to get accrued. So we need to focus on building an emergency fund, right? And this will prevent credit cards from, racking back up when life happens. And then the last thing here would be strategic use of good debt, right? My personal example, I've used 0% APR cards to hire mentors when starting businesses, right? I could afford the monthly payment, right? I had a plan to pay it off before the 0% APR balance disappeared. And I accessed opportunities, information, mentorship to help me increase my value and my wealth and my opportunities, right? It's made massive returns for me in the business. I'm not saying hop off this call and open up a 0% APR credit card and go swipe something. That's not what I'm saying, right? But you can have many examples of this, right? When utilized responsibly, and I'll put the critical guidelines down here in a second, but we've also had clients utilize personal loans at 10% to pay off credit cards at 30%, right? 30%, right? And so it eliminates bad debt because a personal loan is an installment that would actually help you build your credit score compared to a credit card maxed out hurts your credit score. It's consumer debt versus installment loans, right? Consumer debt is credit card debt. Installment loans are like a personal loan, an auto loan, a student loan, a mortgage, etc. Those actually help your credit score compared to credit cards being used the wrong way, right? So not only does it eliminate the bad debt, right? It improves the credit score from now having an installment loan on your credit score, and then also the bad debt goes away, high utilization of a credit card goes away, right? And then obviously it saves a mass amount on interest. 10% compared to 30% is a huge savings. And a lot of times the monthly payment on the personal loan is even smaller than even the minimum payment being made on those maxed out credit cards. So now you've got more money back in your pocket or back in your budget each month to be utilized strategic. And this is wealth building just through strategic debt management, right? And so critical guidelines here, you want to be very responsible before leveraging any form of debt. I don't care if it's a good form, even if it's a good form of debt. So pray first and foremost. Make sure you're stopping and praying and asking God to guide you on, financially responsible decisions, debt or not, anything related to your finances. First, pray. Seek scripture around this topic, then seek wise counsel as well. And then ask yourself, can you afford the monthly payment? Second, do the rewards outweigh the risk? And then third, what's your payoff plan? How, when, and where is this money coming from, right? How are you going to pay it off? When are you going to pay it off by? And where is this money coming from? That will allow you to make sure you're going about the necessary or strategic use of debt in a very biblically sound way, in a very wise way. And so let's just put this all together, the complete framework for 2026, right? Understand good debt versus bad debt. Stop mixing new debt with old debt. Use calculators or even budgets. And for objective planning, you have to know the numbers. You have to see exactly what's going on. It's very hard to improve what you're not measuring, right? So get very clear in the black and white. Steward your current situation better. This would be whether you got debt or not, no matter what's going on in your situation. I'm talking to myself here as well. Steward your current situation better. Don't just chase more income, right? Budget daily for control and peace. Utilize that tool that's needed to help you pay off your debt. If you don't know how much money's coming in, where it's going, and how much is left over, that leftover money in a lot of ways, right, is what's going to be used to pay off this debt faster if you're going to use your own cash to do so. If you don't have a clear number and or areas of opportunity to increase that number if you're not running the proper budget. That's one of the many ways it's related to this goal, right? And then build an emergency either before, while, or after paying off debt. So next time an emergency does pop up, it doesn't rack the credit card back up. Instead, you can pay it off responsibly with the savings that you've created. And then learn how to leverage good debt strategically to get out of the bad debt faster and build wealth if that's what comes up in prayer time with you and God, right? Who cares what I say? Go to God, right? Seek him, seek his wisdom, right? And see what comes up for you. And in the interim, term, I just want to let you know this isn't theory. This is what's working for nearly 1,000 clients right now. And so those are the secrets to paying off debt fast in 2026. And you should 100% implement these right now before you waste more time with outdated, restrictive, and fearful advice that keeps you financially stuck. But here's the reality. I've realized this so many times. Doing this alone is clearly easier said than done. You'll face analysis paralysis on which debts to prioritize first. I see this all the time. You'll struggle with the emotional aspect, definitely, of money management when life gets stressful, and you'll miss opportunities to leverage good debt strategically because you don't have an expert guiding you through the process. So you really only have two options now. And I mean this in the nicest way possible. Number one, try to do it on your own, knowing all the problems you'll face. And I wish you the best of luck. Truthfully, I don't mean that in a condescending way. Right? Or number two, work with me to help you eliminate your debt while building wealth and honoring God with your money at the same time. And if you pick the second option, I know I'm biased, but I think you're smart, but click the first link in the description to book a call with somebody from my team to see if the Good Steward program is the right fit for you. This is for the faith-based and ambitious who want to get their money right so they can finally achieve financial freedom and peace they've been praying for, right? And this is the exact system that I mentioned that helping Darna earlier, who went from literally $15,000 in debt to $25K in savings after 6 months in the program. And then Danielle, who spent 12 months in the program, who paid off $15K in debt without paying any interest. And there's other people like Susan, who honored God and paid off $20K, or Erin, who paid off her debt and invested $100,000, all as a result of being in our program. And these are just a few out of hundreds of our students. And so click the link, book your call, and let's get your finances aligned with God's plan for your life. And also check out my full guide to faith-based money management on the screen right now. Thank you for watching. I'm honored that you're here, and make sure you like and subscribe for more biblical financial wisdom and practical money strategies. And I'll see you in the next video.